Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of State of the Steelers. I'm your Steel Curtain Network host, Daniel. And yeah, as the intro says, we have a guest. We have my compadre, Nathan Hines from In Hindsight. When we work together, we call ourselves the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. Nathan, how's it going? The Steelers win 1-0 against the Jets in a game that I'm sure if I told you that the Steelers defense was going to allow 32 points, probably wouldn't have guessed the outcome. How do you feel How do you feel being 1-0 right now?
Well, it feels good always to be 1-0, man. That game was a sweat fest, and I don't think anybody expected it to be a total point swing over 60. So I think the line was 38.5. Both teams, I think it came out, 66 total points, I think is what it was, 34-32.
Yes, sir.
So it was a shootout. It was probably probably the best 1 p.m. game. But yeah, feels good to be 1-0. You want to start 1-0, and I think that there's quite a bit of things that I'm looking forward to kind of talking about coming out of that game. So, but just in general, 1-0. We'll see what happens this weekend. Yeah,
I'm excited too, man. It was for those that don't know, my father was going through some heart issues, and he's doing a lot better now. But during the game, I messaged him. I was like, or afterwards, I was like, I'm just glad you had your heart procedure and stuff before this game. And his response, his response
would do it for sure, man.
I know. And so I'm actually going to be going down to my hometown and watch the game out there with him this weekend. Nice. So I'm looking forward to it.
Spend some time with Pops.
Yeah. And what do you call it? But yeah, it was this game here was intense against the New York Jets. You know, I was anticipating more of a step up for the defense. And, you know, I understand that they were playing a mobile quarterback, and this week against the Seattle Seahawks, they're going up against Sam Darnold. And he's not a speedy guy whatsoever. He's not a mobile guy. You know, you're kind of expecting to know where he's going to be at. You know, the defense last week actually applied quite a bit of pressure and applied the blitz, I think 30% of the time, and which was on the higher end for the league this last week. And so I think that Justin Fields can just do some things with his legs that a lot of quarterbacks can. And so I'm anticipating the defense having a better job, because if they don't, I mean, you know, this is one of the higher paid defenses, if not the highest paid defense. How important is a bounce back game in front of the home crowd this week?
It's really important, man. The defense was a massive letdown. I think most Steeler fans going into this game was just really hoping, listen, let's try to keep Justin Fields contained. He's going to run. It's going to be a given. They're going to give up some yards. But dude, they ran the whole time. They ran the whole time. Breece Hall just diced up this defense. Justin Fields, and I was honestly happy for Justin Fields, man, having a game like that. That was definitely one of the better games I think he's played in his career. But they definitely need to have a bounce back game in front of the crowd. I think everybody was disappointed in this defense's effort. I don't understand, with the Steelers knowing what Fields brings to the table. It just seems like there was such a lack of emphasis throughout the entire game of like any type of quarterback spy, any type of I think it was that fourth down. Was it the fourth down? I think when they were inside like the 10 or whatever, and they did a little run option. Everybody knew Fields was keeping it, dude. Everybody knew. You could be sitting there at home, anywhere you're at. You knew Fields was keeping that football. And the Steelers bit on the run the whole time. That there was nobody on the outside. There was nobody on a flat. There was no linebacker that was watching Fields. There was nothing. So I don't understand the game plan going into that game, and going into this game. And it's not that like the pressure wasn't there. They did get pressure on the guy. But how many times did the offensive line of the Jets collapse, and that pressure was there, and they could not finish.
Those a few times there.
And that was one. That's what makes when Fields is throwing the ball. I think he's the most effective when he's rolling out of the pocket and he has that space to move. And there were so many times where the Steelers front was collapsing on him, and he's getting out of this pressure, and it's just creating so much down the field for them. And then we saw those big plays. Really, I think the Jets' biggest plays outside of them running the football in terms of the pass is when the pass rush couldn't finish on Justin Fields. It wasn't Justin Fields hanging in the pocket. Wasn't Justin Fields hanging in the pocket making a big play. I mean, he had the one big play to Garrett Wilson down the field. But outside of that, you had your dink and dunks. And he made big plays when he had that time where he was rolling out of the pocket and there was time and space there. And whoever got open. So the approach is going to be different with Sam Darnold for sure. I think you would hope and imagine coming off that the defense was just pissed and heated from whatever the defensive game plan was, that they're going to come out stronger, looking like the Steelers defense that we're expecting. I know it's only one as well, but when we're looking at the Jets at the end of the day, and the Jets 75, 80% of their times was running this football, and it just shed the Steelers the whole game. I mean, it was frustrating. It was frustrating to watch, man.
Yeah, the defense was definitely frustrating. The times that, they were trying to collapse on Justin Fields. Yeah, he did some crazy things. He even had some throws that he kind of threaded the needle there. Between the linebackers that, you got to give it up to him. He played a fantastic game on his own end. And I think that Mike Tomlin mentioned after the game, he said that the unknown component to the game of when you have a relatively new team together, which I don't think is the best excuse to have, because you're not going to play with another team that's only have one game under their belt. Now, granted, there's probably a little bit less surprise with the Seattle Seahawks than versus playing a team like the New York Jets with Justin Fields, because they can do so much with Fields versus what you can do with Darnold. It's more of a X's and O's 11-on-10 matchup versus with Justin Fields. It's the 11-on-11. You have to account for him, and unfortunately, there were some times where it seems like he was able to get away. But it was also the rush defense. The rush defense got gashed yet again. Now, I know that Terrell Austin mentioned that the Steelers are probably going to see a little bit more of Wyatt Black out there. And I'm all for it. Loudermilk, in my opinion, didn't have the best game. He
was
looked
dreadful,
like,
man. He was dreadful. Keanu Benton was dreadful. Cam Hayward was dreadful.
Yeah, I was going to say Cam too. I mean, he looked out of shape.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Well, I mean, he didn't do anything, right? I mean, I know he kind of did things during camp a little bit, but I'm not worried about the guy. Like, I think give him a few games and he'll be back and rolling. But it's like, bro, like, you were terrible. the whole defensive line was awful.
Yeah,
Derek Harmon's going to be out again. We'll get into all that stuff, but it will be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought now. It'll be interesting to see how Justin Fields does as the season goes on. He had a great game. It was I was happy for him. I like the guy. I think there's definitely things there that people like and teams like. But as we talked about on last week's show, I really do think that this is a possibility of this being his last shot for a while if it doesn't go well. Yeah. I do. So we'll see if the Jets kind of actually really work with him and there's more untapped potential, I guess, if we want to say that can come out of him. I hope he does well. I do. It was actually good. I'm glad that he played well, honestly. I think that he got the raw end of the stick here, unfortunately.
So, and we'll transition, real quick. So typically what we end up doing here on State of the Steelers is we start off with, what's the state of the Steelers? They're 1-0 right now. They're tied for first, I guess, if you want to call it, in the division with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Cleveland Browns are the only team to have lost the game last week. This week, Jacksonville takes on the Bengals. I guess we're going to all be, Jacksonville fans for the weekend. And then the Browns and the Ravens take on each other. Most likely the Ravens are going to end up taking that one easily, but it's a division game, so you never know. How do you feel about where the Steelers sit after 1 week in the division?
Well, want to know. You want to win your first game. If you don't win your first game, it's not the end of the world or anything like that. You really don't want to start off 0-2 or 0-3 or things like that. Things can get a little rough. But I think we look at Cleveland. There's really not a whole lot to expect there. It's same old Cleveland. Baltimore, just an absolutely embarrassment of a loss on Sunday night. Just awful. My best friend's a Ravens fan, and that's a whole thing. So that was yeah. So we were all glad and sleeping well. The Ravens blew that game. But yeah, like the Steelers are going to do their thing. They're going to be competitive in their division, no matter how the Bengals and Ravens are faring out. That's what the Steelers do. It's just going to be a matter of, do they win more games than they won last year? Are they going to be around the same ballpark? Are the Steelers going to have an end of the season collapse again? If the Steelers start off really well, let's say they start off, I don't know. Let's say their buys early. So let's just say maybe they're in the same ballpark they were last year, around that 10-3 mark, or 9-4 or whatever. Are they going to have an end of the season collapse that crushes their division hopes, their seeding? We'll see. But they're going to be there regardless. It's just going to be a matter of how much better that they're going to be.
Yeah. The Ravens looked they looked all right. They looked like a strong
team. Ravens look good. Like they did. Their offense is still going to be one of the better ones in the league, long as they're healthy. Their defense can make plays and everything like that. But you know what? Josh Allen and Buffalo, they did their thing as well, and Baltimore just completely collapsed, man. They completely collapsed. And
it was a good thing to see. I was watching.
Yeah, it was a good thing to see. Yeah, the game was just getting ugly. It's still crazy what Derrick Henry's doing at 31. The guy's still in his prime. I've always loved Derrick Henry, though. So even though he's on the Ravens, I'm still always going to be a big Derrick Henry fan. But yeah, it was. I think everybody was happy to see that. People woke up like, "Oh my God, how'd the Ravens lose?" So we'll kind of see how this division shakes out, but it'll be close knit.
Yeah, it definitely will. So transitioning to this upcoming game, next we talk about is the injuries, and obviously everybody knows who is out so far, and out are going to be lineman Derek Harmon out for the second game. He didn't practice much at all this week again. Mm-hmm. I'm almost to the thought that, given his fact that he's a rookie, even though it kind of seems like the Steelers kind of need some help up there with the defensive line, unless he gets like a full week next week, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play a game until the international game in Ireland against the Vikings.
That's possible.
Given his trajectory as far as not being on the practice field. Deshaun Elliott, he's out. And in addition, Joey Porter Jr. So some big names out in the secondary. The Steelers replaced Deshaun Elliott with Jabril Peppers, who I'm not necessarily certain he's going to see a lot of time this week. I think his game is next week. But what do you think of, first and foremost, how does the Steelers secondary losing two big pieces in Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter?
Yeah.
How does that impact the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, in your opinion? And does Jabril Peppers have any playing time this week?
Peppers is definitely going to. I really like the signing. I hate his jersey number.
What number did he get?
40.
What?
40. It looks terrible. It looks terrible. If he's on the team next year, maybe that will change. But Jabril Peppers, veteran guy, had a great year in 23. I think his best year was 2020, 2021. But he's a hard hitter. He's a guy that can force turnovers, force fumbles and stuff like that. So I think he's a guy with his attitude, his play style. I think it fits the Steelers. So we'll kind of see how much playing time that he gets. But I think he definitely will. Elliott and Porter being out, yeah, it sucks. But Elliott's injury could have been a lot worse. So I think he's on a week-to-week thing. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but it kind of evens out. Seattle as well has injuries in their secondary.
They do, and kind of just seeing who they got. They're going to be missing Nick Emoarmi. This is I believe the rookie safety. He was a guy that I was kind of hoping the Steelers might target as a safety. He's going to be out. Devin Witherspoon, their cornerback, he's doubtful with the knee. I mean, even if he goes out there, he's going to be dealing with DK Metcalf.
He's a beast,
being limited, that's going to be a favorable matchup, for DK. Alex Highsmith found himself on the injury report again, this time with an ankle. He was limited, but he's expected to play. And Nick Herbig has been a full participant this week in practice. So we're expecting these two outside edge guys to make an impact here and to be back. First and foremost, I think Nick Herbig is needed. Nothing against Jack Sawyer. It's just I didn't really see a lot of the pressures that Nick Herbig can bring. He brings in a lot of splash, especially in obvious down situations when you know that you're going to be requiring, somebody out there because they're going to be passing the ball. I think this game against Sam Darnold, it's a good game for him, to be back. I would have liked to have seen him back against Justin Fields just because Nick Herbig has a little bit of speed to his game. I think he would have maybe perhaps had a bit of an easier time corralling Justin Fields but did you see that hit from TJ Watt on Justin Fields was just awesome.
Dude. Oh my God. I'm surprised he wasn't flagged for it, man. Or should he have been? But that was rough.
That was. And so, got to give it up to TJ there. But I think Nick Herbig, he would have been a good asset to have last week. This week, he's a good asset to have. Like I said, nothing against Jack Sawyer. He's got some developing to do. He's got some work. And, but it's a good sight to see these two guys back. You get a couple guys back, you lose a couple guys, you make a signing. I think the defense is going to be okay. I think this is definitely a big bounce back game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they need to turn it around defensively. Offensively, I think they did pretty dang good. Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns. Were you expecting a performance from Aaron Rodgers like that?
No. I don't think anybody was, especially the first game of the season. I don't think anybody was expecting vintage Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron also was going in that game with, he wanted to show something.
Yeah.
He took it personal with the way the Jets did him, and understandably so, especially as you listen to his post-game comments. But it was great to see, man. It was refreshing to see competent quarterback play. It was refreshing to see a quarterback throw for 4 touchdowns, which is the first time since 2020.
Yeah.
It was great to see, man, just Aaron's energy. It just bringing life, man, to an offense that's been so dead for years. Just seeing really everybody kind of get a little piece of the cake as well offensively. Like DK was involved. Jonnu did some good things. Freiermuth had a couple big plays. Run game obviously is suspect, but Calvin Austin had a really solid game. So it was good to see those things. I know that we shouldn't expect that to happen, all the time, but Aaron was smart. Aaron's always been a smart quarterback. He's always been precise. His arm's there, man. You just got to keep him up, and that's the biggest thing I want to see this week. I mean, we need to see a big game from Broderick Jones here, or else the guy's on thin ice.
And the guy's, I think he's already on thin ice, and he plays out there like he's playing on ice, getting turned around multiple times.
I don't understand. He had a strong preseason. He looked comfortable. What are we doing, dude? Seriously, what are we doing? Is this a Pat Meyer thing? Is this a Broderick thing? Is this a mixture of both? Like, what's going on here? I don't get it. Now, also, I want to give a little grace to Broderick. He was on the right side the last 2 years, and this is really his first game as a starting left tackle in the NFL. But this is year 3, and we need to step up here. This is what we got to do. It was a brutal game. I think the entire left side had a brutal game. But it is what it is. So this is a big game from Broderick, or if not, then I think this Andres Pete guys will end up taking a spot eventually.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, you got Andres Pete. You also have, I think he's going through something, Calvin Anderson, but he's been a guy that's been moving around back there as well. I don't think that they would move Troy Fautano there, because moving Troy would now have him in a new position and somebody else in another. Right, so, yeah, it's too many new players in new places on the offensive line in a short succession. So I don't think that would be the move. It would definitely be somebody there for Broderick if he doesn't get it turned around. I do think there is a bit of a leash there Depending on how bad the performance is, last week he gave up 3
Yeah.
sacks and like 4 pressures.
Yeah, he did.
That was horrible. I mean, that
It
was
was
horrible.
horrible. I mean, Aaron was taking a beating, and
He was.
we can't be having that. We can't be having that. So it needs to be something that within these next couple weeks really needs to be transition for him, where hopefully maybe things he can ease himself a little bit better, give himself a little bit of grace. Things can start feeling a little more comfortable again for him, like how they were in college. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. That's out of our control.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, he definitely needs a bigger game. If not, Omar Khan and Steelers need to start looking for an alternative option because, as you mentioned, the quarterback isn't a spring chicken, and
No.
you know,
No.
he needs to be protected.
He's not. No, he's not. But
and so, but overall, I thought offensively they did okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about the offense. I want to get your opinions on some of the usage there and the running back, the wide receiver room, because it was a little bit odd. But we're gonna take a quick break, real fast. Don't go anywhere for those. Sorry, we'll be right back after a few words from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel, again, your host. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, stillcurrentnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. After the podcast, go check it out. Be a part of the conversation. Create a login profile. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to have your profile. And what that does is it allows you to comment underneath all the articles and breaking news, so you can be a part of the conversation and talk with the authors and the editors of the website. You also find all the other audio-only podcasts where you found this one. They're on stillcurrentnetwork.com. All right, back into the conversation. So last week, the Pittsburgh Steelers had some interesting personnel usage. Jaylen Warren actually had less snaps than Kenneth Gainwell. I was expecting to see a little bit of Kenneth Gainwell. Do you think that this is a trajectory that we should continue to see, that we're going to see in Seattle, where Jaylen Warren is still your RB2? Because it kind of feels that way right now after week 1. Caleb Johnson didn't feel like he ended up getting any opportunities except for one. He didn't get any yards, but he ended up getting a penalty. So by default, he got the Steelers 15 yards there. Were you shocked about the usage there with Jaylen Warren and the lack thereof? And I don't know, maybe perhaps they were concerned about something. What do you think?
Dude, I'm honestly not even surprised. They did this with Cordarrelle Patterson last year. I don't know what it is with Arthur Smith where like they'll have an RB1 type guy. I mean, I'm not saying Jaylen Warren's a starting running back in the NFL. That's to be seen.
Yeah.
But they did this with Cordarrelle Patterson last year. And we scratched our heads a lot of times in terms of why is Cordarrelle Patterson getting this amount of snaps? Why is he involved in these certain downs? Why is he A, B, and C, right? He was really brought in to ultimately be a return specialist. That's what he was brought in for last year. And does that negate some plays he made? No, he made a few plays, but he was way, way overused. Kenny Gainwell brought similar vibes to me. Kenny Gainwell was not effective. Neither was our run game at all in general. But Jaylen Warren needs to be getting the majority of the snaps. You need to be able to see what he's capable of doing as your lead back. He can pass block. He can catch out of the backfield. He has speed. And we have to see if this guy can be a lead guy. Caleb Johnson, I don't expect to play a whole lot for a while. I don't.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying Kenneth Gainwell doesn't have a role. I think he's still pretty young. He's still 25? I feel like he's even older than. I feel like he's been around the league a while, but he's between 24 and 26. I don't know his exact age. But he has a role, which is fine. He can bring some burst, which is great. But Jaylen Warren needs to be the lead guy. And I don't understand why Arthur Smith likes to utilize these outside running backs. He did the same thing with Bijan Robinson his rookie year. I don't understand it.
He's 26.
He's 26 years old. Okay, yeah. So he's still a young dude. But I don't know. Arthur Smith likes to do that stuff, and I don't get it. And honestly, I'm probably going to expect the same this week.
He's the same age as Jalen Warren. They're both 26.
Both 26.
Yeah, you're right. It feels like Kenneth Gainwell's been in the league a minute.
Yeah, it really does.
You know, I'm all for, keeping a fresh back or player in there.
Yeah, like that's fine. Have him in certain things. We have to see what Jalen Warren can do as a league guy.
Yeah, I do. I believe that. And I think that, they could have used a little bit more of the running game. I guess his yards per average weren't the greatest either, so maybe that's why you weren't utilizing him so much. But they got to get that going. They did a lot of play action pass, and the team, the defenses were just kind of harping in on Aaron Rodgers, and a lot of the times is when he took a few of those sacks was, especially like the first play of the game was a play action pass turned around and defenders right in his face, and so they need to get some positive runs. They didn't have very many. I don't think they had at all any passes down the field, but I think that was more to do so with the fact that I think they were concerned with, routes that developed down the field and the time in which Aaron Rodgers had to get rid of the ball. Mm-hmm. Jalen Warren was one guy that I, didn't think that was utilized a lot. Another guy was Roman Wilson. I think he was out there for a handful of snaps to get no targets,
barely
nothing. Were you surprised by that? Do you expect that this is going to be the case? Do you think that the Steelers are like, all right, it's one thing with the tight ends constantly rotating, another thing with the running backs rotating. Not much rotation there with the wide receivers.
Right. Yeah, I was a little surprised by Roman Wilson's usage. I think it will increase as the weeks go on. I do. But I was surprised. I thought that he was going to be a primary guy, and he wasn't. But I actually think we'll see a little bit more of him this week.
Do you think that the fact that we didn't see him much, given how much Arthur Smith utilizes several players in positions, the receiving core, not so much. It was DK, it was Calvin, for a few, and we had Ben Skoranek for the first touchdown. I don't know how many people had that on their parlay.
Yeah. Right.
whoever put a bet on that won a significant amount of money. But there wasn't. It was mainly Calvin, DK, some to the tight ends. Pat Freiermuth had a couple of catches, big third down passes. Do you think it's an Aaron Rodgers thing that there's not that rotation in the wide receivers room like the other positions with Arthur Smith?
No, I think it's an Arthur Smith thing, man. I think Aaron's actually wanted, I think, from something that's kind of been thrown out there. I think that he would love to have whomever he can have. I think it's more so of an Arthur Smith thing. He loves using tight ends. He uses two wideouts a lot. I mean, you can go back in his history and his time with Atlanta, his time with Tennessee and stuff like that. So this is just the offense Arthur Smith likes to do, and he called a good game in terms of creating open space and everything like that. We really didn't see that many pitches, thank God. God, that was miserable. Just these halfback tosses all year long last year. Get rid of that. Thankfully, we didn't see that too much. But it's definitely more of an Arthur Smith type thing. But we need to see some more Roman Wilson. You need to get a little bit more out there with three wide receivers, a little bit, space out your offense a little bit more. But I really could see them going in with the same type of mindset from last week, just given how well it worked.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I think it worked well. You don't fix what's not broken. Hopefully they do change some things. I think they're going to end up giving the ball off a little bit more. I think they're going to run the ball more, even though there's some injuries in the defensive back group for the Seattle Seahawks. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot more runs, just because last week was a lot of play actions and stuff like that. Yeah. I think they're going to be anticipating that Seattle's going to try to counter those play action passes and staying back. And they might give a little bit of running room for the running backs up front to navigate and to move around. That's my crazy prediction. I think the Steelers are going to run the ball fairly well this week. I'm anticipating. This is my crazy stat, and I want a crazy one from you.
Okay.
90 plus yards for Jalen Warren rushing.
Wow.
I think they're going to run the ball. I think he's going to break a few.
I prefer probably 100 yards combined between receiving and rushing for Warren.
Yeah, but I do think that that's not going to be too difficult because I think he's going to. Well, I mean, that's if he plays. That's the other thing too, right? Let me change this. 120 yards rushing from the running back group.
I'm not sure I can get behind that one right now.
You don't think they'll do it? It's a crazy stat.
It is a crazy stat. I don't think so right now. I like Seattle's front's not shy or anything like that. I just feel like with the way that they did with the Jets, man, that they're going to just want to move the football the way that they did. And I agree. They definitely need to settle in more so and be able to run the football to let things move better. But I just feel like, dude, that's like just what the Steelers do, man. Like they just stick to like just one thing. And
yeah,
with how those things went against the Jets and Arthur Smith's plays and the play action and the 2 tight ends and the 2 receivers and stuff like that, I just feel like they're just going to stick with that and not really emphasize too much with their run game. That's just my prediction. I hope you're right.
Well, I'm also anticipating that the defense isn't going to allow 30-something points. I'm anticipating the defense is going to do their part.
Fair.
And that maybe perhaps the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to want to run down the clock at the end of the game.
Fair.
You know, if the defense did their part last week, and the Steelers put up at one point, I think they had 24. You know, if the Jets had 10 points or more away, they would have ran down the clock towards the end, as most teams would. But more so the Steelers. I changed that because there's some teams that they might be up by a lot and they still decide to pass the ball, and then that's how the other teams come back and beat them in the end.
Right.
But the Steelers play kind of smart in those situations and try to run out the clock. I think that would be the case in this scenario if the Steelers can limit the Seattle Seahawks offensively and can get up by a couple of scores in the second half. I can see at least by double digit or 2 scores.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them utilizing the running game, especially if it's effective. And I think that, and I'm hoping that Seattle kind of starts to maybe try to protect for those play action passes and allow for some of those running rooms or for some running room for the running backs. But that's the chess piece. You know, we put this out on tape last week. You know, what's the defense going to try to do? Are they going to try to cover that, or are they going to anticipate the Steelers are going to try to, maybe make a move to change the way they're doing things? And so that's going to be the chess game, and I'm excited for it. You know, the Steelers, I think all time are 11-10 versus Seattle, and that's including the Super Bowl win. Real quick, do you remember that game? I think you were fairly young when the Steelers won in 2005.
In 2005, yeah, I think I was in. What grade was I in? Maybe 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah, you're fairly young. Did you watch it? Do you remember?
I remember the game.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was just a little tight. That's all.
There you go. Yeah, I was. I think I had just graduated like a couple of years before, and so I was a young man at that time.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
Yeah, it was a good game, man. It was a great game. Ben didn't play the greatest, but it was a overall in the end, the Steelers had a team win, and it was a great game. Yes. So a little bit of predictions, and we'll go into the betting line real quick. The Steelers are favored by 3 points, and which is kind of interesting. Do you think that's fair? Because it's a home game, so that means that in a neutral area, they would believe that these two teams are even. Do you think that's to be the case? Do you think that these two teams are even?
I think there's a balance there. I mean, Seattle, they have a couple guys banged up, but Seattle had a really solid defense last year. Sam Darnold, we have to kind of see how he does, because that was really like the only year of his career that he actually had a positive season. But Seattle has some dogs, man. They definitely do. Like Seattle really, they only scored 13 points against San Francisco, but they were still in a pretty close-knit game. Like I do think they're a pretty balanced team. Like I don't think the Steelers are. I think the Steelers are better, but I don't think they're better by a large margin. I think Seattle has good talent. It's going to come down to, for them, like, they have two good running backs, in my opinion, that offset each other well. Kenneth Walker didn't really even have a good game last week, but they have a good defense, which is what they're run by with their head coach from the Ravens. Sam Darnold is, from what we saw last year, I mean, he can be a potent quarterback. You know, he can be an average, a little above average quarterback. I don't like. I think Seattle's a tad, in my opinion, looking at them just as they are, I think they're a tad over a 500 team. I think the Steelers are a little better, but I'm not surprised that the line's at -3 though.
I am. I was thinking at least 4. I know it's just 1 point, but that's that's more than a field goal. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was thinking at least 4, maybe 5. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a huge margin.
I don't mind the line. If it was like 1.5, I'd be like, but I don't mind the line though. I think -3 is okay.
Yeah.
And it's early in the season. Like, you can kind of really only go off of, when it comes to betting odds, you can kind of really only go off of like, okay, what happened week 1, but other than that, you just kind of go off of like what you take the team as.
That's true.
That's about all you can do right now till probably about week 4.
The over-under is 40.5. So who do you take to win, and where are you on the points?
40.5. Well, it's a little higher than last week. I think not by much. I think odds makers want to see the Steelers put this together rather more consistently with their point scoring, because that's the way they've been for 5 years. They haven't been able to score anything more than like 14 points consistently. Seattle only scored 13 week 1. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about, like, I really don't think I even now I don't really think 40.5 is really too bad of a point total. Just, again, we have to kind of go off of what we've seen so far. But I could see it hitting the over as well, for sure. The Steelers defense played like ass. Did they play like ass again this week?
Yeah.
Does Sam Darnold kind of thread the needle throughout the game? Right. Or not, right? So I really don't mind that line right now, especially with it just being week 2. But I think the Steelers win this game.
What's the score?
I'm gonna say Steelers win. I'm gonna go 23-17.
That's a good score.
I think they cover the spread. They hit their -3 mark. And then that total, if that's 23, I mean, that's right there.
Yeah, it's at 40.
Yeah, that's right there. So I don't really think it's a bad total mark at all.
Yeah, see, I think that this, one of the reasons why the over-under might be, in the 40 range. It's a little bit higher, like you mentioned, but I think it's low for the purpose that I think that the odds makers have a little bit more confidence in the Steelers defense coming back and bouncing back as well. You got to look at who you were playing and the unknown component, as Mike Tomlin mentioned in week 1. You had a new head coach, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, with the Jets. So there was a lot of unknowns there. Although, one can say, well, the Steelers had a new quarterback. Yeah, but it's a quarterback that kind of fits what Arthur Smith has done in the past and what he's utilized before. And then you also had Justin Fields, who was intimate with the Steelers defense, and the Steelers they knew what his talents were, which I found Juan Thornhill's comment about the Steelers being underprepared for him a little bit concerning, because I feel like
we hear that every year, man.
That's true.
We hear it every year.
And the Steelers face a mobile quarterback twice a year, so you would have thought that they would have been prepared for somebody with the.
What's a comment I didn't like from Terrell Austin? Terrell Austin was asked about that. I was asked about, like, I don't know, whatever question he was asked about last week, and he said it's one game. Every team, every defense is okay for one stinker, and I'm like, bro, the last 9 games, the Steelers defense has given up over 27 points.
Yeah,
I don't like. What is that? Like, why are you making an excuse like that? It's bad, dude. Like, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest right now. I understand the Steelers defense the last handful of years has not had any help from their offense. I understand the Steelers defense has been the primary carry point. But when we look at what this defense is getting paid the last handful of years, this defense has not been elite at all. It hasn't. They have not been elite. The last time the Steelers defense was elite, in my opinion, was 2019. They had the best defense in the NFL that year. They led the league in turnovers. They led the league in sacks. They were awesome. But unfortunately, Ben missed the whole season that year. 2020, they were right back in the top 3. They had a great outing. But the following years following that, last year, they gave up 1,000,000 ton of yards. They were bottom of the barrel on that. I don't even think they hit 40 sacks last year. They weren't very good. And that's just the reality of it. The Steelers defense the last 3 years at least have underperformed. And that needs to change. You make a big trade for Jalen Ramsey. You invested more money into TJ Watt, which is fine. You bring Patrick Queen in last year. You bring in Darius Slay. You give Cam Hayward, you bring him back. You draft Derek Harmon. Like, this needs to be a defense that's at the top. There's no excuses as this season goes on why this defense should not be in the top 5. There's none.
I agree. And, the first showing didn't come out so great. And so it's going to leave a bad taste in a lot of people.
They were shredded on the run. There were no turnovers created. There was pressure, but nothing got finished. There was nothing. You have a safety coming out saying they weren't prepared against Justin Fields when you all know that this guy has 4 years worth of tape and film and his legs are his number one asset. What are we doing?
You're right.
I like to know. I would genuinely like to know.
Yeah,
and to this day, I never liked the Terrell Austin hiring as a defense coordinator. Can he coach defensive backs? Sure. There's a lot of times in the NFL where guys are really strong in a certain position and do a good job. But when they start to have to cover something bigger or they're in a bigger role, it doesn't work out. That's okay. But not everybody's meant to call a defense or an offense or be a head coach.
But I don't know if it's necessarily that.
You can incorporate Mike Tomlin as well, 100%.
That's where I was going with that, because I mean, even Julian Edelman came out recently saying that the Steelers checks and everything else have been the same since he was playing. Yeah. And so Terrell Austin wasn't the defensive coordinator then, right, but the head coach was Mike Tomlin. And it sounds like it takes a lot for him to change his ways, whether it's allowing the quarterbacks to make moves or decisions or
which thankfully he himself admitted Aaron's able to do that.
Yeah. Or changing.
So.
Right. And then the philosophy of not throwing the ball over the middle,
right?
Those type of things that he has carried on with him because of, for a man that says he doesn't like to live in his fears, let's be real. That's all that is living in his fears.
We punt Daniel on 4th and 1 midfield. So 4th and inches we punt. So
yeah. And so I agree. This defense it's got the playmakers that regardless of what you're running out there, you should be able to be an excellent defense, regardless of what you put out there. But obviously you want to put them in the best position. It is just one game against the New York Jets. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a leash here before I
I'm not sitting here saying, the defense is freaking putrid. I mean, they were putrid, but it was week 1. Let's let this go up to week 4.
Exactly.
I always like to kind of start to look at teams once we hit the first quarter part of the season. That's kind of when I start to kind of get an idea, not freaking already make an assumption or anything like that. So yeah, I agree 100%. It's just disheartening because we know the Jets are the Jets. We know the Steelers really focused on this offseason and trying to stop the run, and they got ripped to pieces the first game of the season against a quarterback they had in their clubhouse last year, against a quarterback that they have 4 years worth of film on, and just again, you just let him move all over the place with his legs. That there was nothing there that was containing Justin Fields from moving out. So that was frustrating to watch.
It was, and I hope they turn it around, and I think they're going to turn it around. I think that there's some components to the New York Jets offense that was unknown, and some attributes that the Seattle Seahawks don't have in their quarterback that Justin Fields has, mainly the legs and things of that nature.
I'm interested to see, knowing what Fields did this week, I'm interested to see how this carries throughout the year.
Yeah,
is this going to be something where we see, okay, this is finally the Justin Fields that really the Steelers should have had or should have developed, or Chicago should have developed? Like, is this the Justin Fields? Because listen, if Justin Fields is around this ballpark on a consistent basis throughout the week, if not throughout the week, throughout the season, I'd be sitting here saying, I wish we kept him. I would. Yeah. 26 years old. I would be saying that 100%. And the other point, are we going to see great game from Justin Fields? This was one of his good games that he has on an inconsistent basis.
Well, I think there's also a difference in philosophy, right? Could Justin Fields do what he's doing there in New York with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Could they have mustered up an offense that showcased his abilities through the air as well as on the ground? So I think they were able to do that on the ground with him last year. But it didn't translate, through the air as much. And I know they had some penalties that brought back some big plays and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But to be 110% honest with you, by the time that Raider game was over, I was ready to see Russell Wilson. I was ready to see somebody else. And so
I liked the game he had against the Colts last year. I thought that was one of his better career games.
It was good. Yeah. It was good. I mean, he had some ups and downs, and like I said, I was ready to see what Russ had. And in the beginning, Russ looked all right, and then it seemed like some of the things that he was able or they were letting him do started to be restricted. And
Giants fans are already done with it.
No, we need them to stay for the compensatory pick for me.
No, they're already done with it, man. His some of the stuff that I saw from him last Sunday, man, it was brutal. It was rough. And I've always been a big Russell Wilson fan. I think he's a borderline Hall of Fame guy with what he did his first 10 years in the league. He was a top 5 quarterback for quite a while. I think he's a good guy. I always enjoyed watching him play. But as he's started to get in his early, little bit more the mid 30s, he just fell off, man.
I agree.
I'm not sure why my screen froze up.
You do look funny.
Funny.
I will say,
this is going
just kind of wrapping it up though. For me, I'm thinking that, and my final prediction score is going to be that the Steelers are going to take care of business this week. I think I was struggling with 24, maybe 27 points offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not too certain, to be 110% honest with you, because I think the defense is going to do their part, and I think they're going to hold the Seattle Seahawks to less than 2 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with 13 points. If the Steelers are holding them down to 13 points and they got 24, I could just see them running down the clock and it ending at around that 24 to 13 range. It could be 27-13, but I think that the defense has a bounce back week. And I'm going to go ahead and say the Steelers cover the points, and they don't cover the spread, or they don't cover the over on the total points. What is that? Let's go with 24-13. So that's 37 points. I mean, that's I think that may have been what I said was this going to be the score last week too. But I'm going to go with 24-13 with the under, with the Steelers winning, taking the points. Should be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be watching it. And then, for Nathan, he had to jump out real quick. He's from In Hindsight. So if you guys go give him a follow and a like, I'm going to be back on with Shannon White on a show called The Hangover. That'll be Monday after the game, hopefully after a Steelers victory. And that'll be about 9 p.m. Eastern time. So that's my prediction. I'm saying 24-13. I know that that Nathan said, I think it was closer to 27-17. And so, close games for both sides. And we'll see what happens. For Nathan, I'm Daniel. This is Steel Curtain Network. I'll see you guys on The Hangover on Monday. Peace out, guys.